Kinzinger is one of Donald Trump's most prominent critics.
Democracies are not defined by our bad days. We're defined by how we come back from bad days.
He was just one of 2 Republicans on the January 6th committee and one of 10 Republican representatives who voted to impeach Trump after the attack on the U.S. Capitol. That position made him a target of his own party, but the backlash also came from outside Washington.
All of a sudden, imagine everybody that supported you, or so it seems that way, your friends, your family, has turned against you.
Last year, he decided not to seek re-election in the U.S. midterms. Now he's written his first political memoir, Renegade. I spoke with Adam Kinzinger about Trump, American democracy, and the price of speaking up. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, good to be with you.
I want to start with something that happened earlier this week. Donald Trump took the stand as a witness in his civil fraud case. Also, of course, been indicted 4 times just this year. But that poll on the weekend, last weekend by the New York Times, found that he's leading in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states. How do you explain that to this country about what is happening and why people are still willing to give him another chance?
Well, it's hard for me to even explain it to my country. Look, there's this fight among kind of this cultural feeling of, somehow they believe Donald Trump is this victim. He's a really good victim. He's really good at playing victim. And, part of the problem is what I will call the tier 2 influencers. So all these other Republican candidates running for president, with the exception of Chris Christie, they're all on stage saying, yeah, Donald Trump is a victim. They're running against the guy and then saying he's a victim. And so I think part of what you're seeing is just, Republicans trust Republican leaders and Republican leaders aren't telling them the truth. And I also think it's still pretty early. I think Democrats have to take these numbers very seriously, but there's still a little time to go for sure.
When you saw them win in those elections this week, particularly on some big abortion rights issues, did you think that was the beginning of a winning strategy for the Democrats, or that we'll see more of that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. So I think abortion is going to be part of that. I think, dealing with immigration, it's a big issue. And I think that's something that Democrats, it seems that they're maybe starting to understand that they need to talk about, because that's why I think they're losing a lot of people to this kind of Republican populism. Mm-hmm. Crime is always an issue, and of course what's going on overseas. But yeah, I think they're tapping into some winning issues here. And but the bottom line, I still think in 2024 the vote's going to be on pocketbooks and the economy. And so, a lot of that'll be out of the hands of really anybody running for office at the moment.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of things that you said in the book. You said at one point that you once held the party you held your loyalty was gone, replaced by, quote, a fascist cult of personality built upon decades of ever more extreme partisan politics and cultural warfare. I mean, that quote hit me like a ton of bricks. So do you still consider yourself a Republican, or just not a Republican right now? How would you consider yourself?
Well, I'm holding the title Republican because, the United States needs 2 healthy parties. Right now, it doesn't. One of them is certainly not healthy. It's very sick. It's sprinting to authoritarianism. And so we need people to hang on to the title, to fight for it. And frankly, if I hold on to the title Republican, I have a much different audience I can talk to about what's wrong with the party. Now, I didn't vote Republican last election cycle. I will not be voting Republican in 2024 unless some miracle happens. But I also don't want to give up that fight, because if I walk away and just say, okay, I'm a Democrat now, or I'm an independent, then that's one less person to fight for the party. And this party really does need fought for.
Let's talk about some of the other things that you recount in the book on a phone call that you had a few days before January 6th, where you felt that something was going to happen. You were watching things, I guess. You sensed that there could be violence. You even say that you brought your gun to the Capitol with you that day. Tell me what it was. Tell me why you were feeling that this was going to happen, because it was a surprise to many people, and what it was like to be there and witness it.
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise to me because for 2 reasons. Number one, this country was founded on the idea of if something's being stolen or taxation without representation, we rebelled, and that's how we became independent. And so you hear people all the time say stuff like, if an election is stolen or if the government's out of touch, we have to overthrow it by force. And I know how some of those folks talk, so that concerned me. When you convince a significant part of the population that the election system is stolen, I mean, democracy can't survive in that. I mean, it can't survive if you can't have common rules. The other thing was, I just looked at Twitter. I mean, I had so many death threats against me because I was speaking out. And then people were sending me screenshots of folks saying they were, had weapon stashes in DC and that there was going to be this insurrection act. And so I knew there'd be violence. I can't say that I knew they'd, take over the Capitol, because I don't think anybody saw that was going to happen. But yeah, I never took my gun to work because we had enough police officers there, but I did that day. And I lived through, I've lived through 9/11, I've lived through war. I'm a veteran, but that was the saddest thing to live through because it was my own country and my own countrymen.
Do you think that there will be consequences for Donald Trump for what he didn't do that day?
I do think he'll be held accountable. It's hopefully before the election. That's going to be the big key, but we'll see. The bottom line is he is the most corrupt person to ever hold office in the United States of America. I think goes without saying. I think most people see that, and I think Department of Justice is going to be able to put that in front of a jury and hold him accountable.
Did you tell me a little bit about what you, not what you suffered, but what happened to you for speaking out against him, and what's happened to you since? Because it wasn't just choosing to indict him and the investigation at the committee, but it's all the things that you've said since. How much of a personal price have you paid for that?
Well, look, I don't need to get people's sympathy, but I have paid a personal price. And I think it's important because here in the U.S. and probably even up in Canada, people have arguments over this guy, at Thanksgiving, at Christmas. And there are families here that have broken up. And, I had my dad's extended family sent me a certified letter. Like, the stupidest thing was sent me a certified letter saying I was working for the devil and I was part of the devil's army. And what that shows me is the cult. It's a cult nature of what's happened with the GOP. They've been basically brainwashed into believing this guy is the new Jesus. And so that's actually caused me to double down and to keep talking, because this is the time when we have to double down. But I've lost a lot of friends. My co-pilot in the war in Iraq, I'm a pilot in the Air Force. He sent me a text about a year ago that just said he was embarrassed or ashamed to have ever flown with me. What kind of brain rot causes that, particularly two people that were in a war together. So it's encouraged me to stand up and speak out even more.
How do you feel about the state of American democracy? Because you clearly believe that Trump, there is a chance that he could win. How do you feel about the state of democracy?
Well, it's sick right now. It's ill. And I said this at the opening of the January 6th hearings. I said, look, democracies aren't defined by bad days. We're defined by how we come back from those bad days. I mean, if you look at France, they have a riot every 2 weeks. So, you can't judge a democracy on that alone. But what's going to really determine if America is a healthy democracy going forward is, do we come back from this? If Donald Trump gets reelected, we're in real trouble. If he doesn't get reelected and he ends up going to jail and paying a price for what he did, I think that shows that democracy can endure and be healthy. But I think the jury's out right now.
Would you ever run again?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would have told you 10 months ago, not a chance. But now that I've been out for 10 months and I've kind of taken inventory of everything that's happened, look, once you're in, the itch is always coming back. So,
that's right.
I'd consider maybe running again in 2028, maybe for president or something, although that's not why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just doing it because I'm passionate about it, and we'll see where that leads next.
Okay, well, if you decide to run for president, definitely come back and talk to me, if not before.
Certainly.
Adam Kinzinger, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, hello friends, we've come to the end. Really, have you subscribed yet? Yes, press the subscribe button and the like button and the share button. Thank you and have a nice